Europe thought the World Cup had shown America at full power, but what if that was only the preview? Across the country, billion-dollar stadiums are rising with enough ambition to make yesterday's arenas feel outdated. Could America soon host an entire World Cup with venues the world has not even entered yet? More importantly, what happens when the nation Europeans underestimated begins building the future right in front of them? Queens goes. Billion-dollar. The World Cup may have ended, but America seems determined to make sure the world keeps looking in its direction. While many European supporters returned home carrying jerseys, souvenirs, and perhaps a slightly unhealthy attachment to American portion sizes, New York was already building the next reason for them to come back. Etihad Park, the future home of New York City FC, is rising at Willets Point in Queens, close to Citi Field, and it immediately turns the familiar idea of a 25,000-seat soccer stadium into something much larger. In many European cities, a ground of this capacity would be considered practical, intimate, and perfectly respectable. England has clubs playing in compact stadiums surrounded by terraced houses, while older venues in Italy and Spain often sit inside neighborhoods shaped long before modern traffic plans existed. Their charm comes from history, closeness, and the feeling that the stadium grew naturally alongside the community. New York is taking a different route. It is placing a $780 million soccer venue inside a $3 billion transformation of an entire district, as though someone asked for a new living room and America calmly added a kitchen, a shopping district, several apartment blocks, and a regional economic plan.
Etihad Park is finally rising in Willets Point, Queens, right next to Citi Field. This will be New York City FC's first permanent home and the first soccer-specific stadium ever built in New York City. Construction has already passed major milestones. In March, the final steel beam was installed, completing the main structural frame. More recently, the final panel of the huge logo wall on the cube facade was also put in place. The 25,000-seat venue, designed by HOK, is planned to open with the 2027.
That scale changes how European visitors may understand American soccer after experiencing the country during the 2026 World Cup. Much of the overseas coverage they'd seen focused on expensive cities, political tension, traffic, or social problems. Then they arrived and found packed stadiums, volunteers helping strangers, large transport networks moving enormous crowds, and cities treating major events like organized public celebrations. Etihad Park extends that discovery beyond the tournament. It shows that American soccer is not being packed away with the flags after the final. The infrastructure is continuing to grow even after international visitors have boarded their flights home.
It's mad in here, it's all air conditioned. Absolutely mad.
Construction began on December 4th, 2024, and the first structural beam was installed on June 18th, 2025. The stadium is expected to open in mid-2027, with 25,000 seats designed specifically for soccer. Yet the most impressive figure may not be found inside the stands. The wider Willets Point development is projected to create more than 14,000 temporary jobs, 1,550 permanent positions, and roughly $6 billion in economic activity over 30 years. That is a remarkable amount of responsibility for a building whose main weekend duty is technically to watch 22 people chase one ball. This is where the American approach becomes fascinating. Europe often protects stadium traditions that have taken generations to develop, while the United States frequently treats a new venue as a tool for reshaping the future. Etihad Park is being linked with housing, retail, public spaces, transportation, and long-term neighborhood renewal. The match is the attraction, but the district around it is meant to remain alive long after the crowd has left and the last hot dog has been sold. For European supporters, that ambition can feel almost excessive until they spend time in America and realize excess is often where the fun begins. A cup of coffee becomes a bucket, a highway becomes a horizon, and a soccer stadium becomes an urban development strategy. The result is not merely a modern ground with comfortable seats. It is a statement that American soccer no longer sees itself as a guest borrowing someone else's stage.
This might honestly be the best stadium I've ever seen. Look at this. Oh my word. This place is incredible. The US weren't joking when they said they had the best stadiums, because this is insane.
Etihad Park may not be the largest stadium in the country, but it captures something deeply American. The belief that a relatively modest capacity can still carry enormous ambition. After witnessing the scale and energy of the 2026 World Cup, many European visitors could look at Queens and understand why leaving America suddenly feels harder than expected. The tournament introduced them to the country, but projects like this give them a reason to return.
We owe apologies to America because their football stadiums are so much better than ours. This is the Dallas Stadium and it is absolutely incredible. England's just beating Croatia.
Chicago builds. Tomorrow, Chicago's next soccer stadium is interesting for a reason that goes far beyond its 22,000 seats. The real story is the location. The Chicago Fire are preparing to move into the 78, a new district beside the Chicago River, where the stadium is expected to become part of an $8 billion development rather than standing alone like a giant concrete island surrounded by parking lots. For European visitors who arrive during the World Cup expecting American soccer to feel temporary, this waterfront project offers a very different answer. Chicago's not simply finding somewhere to play, it is giving soccer a permanent address in the middle of the city's future. That approach feels unusual when compared with many famous European grounds. London clubs such as Fulham and Chelsea play in dense neighborhoods where streets, homes, pubs, and stadium walls sit almost on top of one another. In Italy, venues such as San Siro were built for enormous crowds, but their surrounding districts developed under very different planning priorities. Those places possess history that cannot be manufactured, although changing them can become slow, expensive, and politically complicated. Chicago has the rare luxury of designing the district and the stadium together, which is a little like planning Thanksgiving dinner before 30 relatives have already occupied the kitchen. The project is expected to cost about $750 million, financed by owner Joe Mansueto, and that private commitment gives the stadium a distinctly American flavor. A 22,000-seat venue sounds modest beside the country's giant football arenas, yet the investment per seat suggests nobody is treating it as a minor league afterthought. The design includes rainwater collection, solar panels, and a green roof, turning sustainability from a plaque near the entrance into part of the building's daily operation. This is the cultural difference worth examining. In much of Europe, football grounds are treasured because they preserve memory. In Chicago, the attraction lies in building a place that can create memory from the beginning while also solving modern urban problems. Water management matters in a city shaped by a river. Renewable energy matters in a venue that will consume power long after sunset. A green roof may sound less dramatic than a last-minute goal, but it helps the stadium work like a responsible neighbor rather than a very expensive guest who only appears on weekends. That combination can become strangely addictive for visitors. American venues often make an event feel larger before anyone reaches a seat. The walk through a redeveloped district, the skyline reflected in the river, the restaurants filling before kickoff, and the public spaces remaining active afterward all become part of the ticket. The game lasts 90 minutes, but the experience quietly stretches across an entire afternoon. America has always understood that people remember how a place made them feel, which is why even a trip for soccer can begin to resemble a small civic festival with better lighting. Groundbreaking took place on March 3, 2026, with an opening planned for 2028. By then, European supporters may see something that challenges the familiar media picture of American cities as places defined only by traffic, expense, and disorder. They will see a privately financed stadium tied to riverfront regeneration, environmental technology, jobs, housing, and public life. None of that erases Chicago's real challenges, just as no European capital is defined only by its postcard streets. It simply reveals the side of America that headlines rarely have room to explain. The new Chicago Fire Stadium will not try to imitate Wembley, San Siro, or any beloved old ground across the Atlantic. Its appeal comes from doing something more local, placing soccer beside the river, under the skyline, inside a district still being born. Europe often offers the romance of football's past, while Chicago is preparing the pleasure of watching its next chapter arrive in real time. That may be why visitors leave with one inconvenient thought following them all the way home. They would rather return for opening night than merely watch it through a screen. Small city, Giant Bet Grand Rapids is where this list becomes especially interesting, because Amway Stadium does not try to impress through raw size. With only 8,500 seats, it is the smallest project here, yet its planned cost reaches $175 million. That number changes the entire conversation. America is not waiting for every soccer market to become enormous before investing seriously. In Michigan, the country is building the stage first and trusting that the audience, the club, and the local culture will grow into it.
This stadium could be the spark that lights up the West Side. Amway Stadium is bringing pro soccer to Grand Rapids with an 8,500-seat venue just north of the YMCA on Winter Avenue Northwest. Backed by a $175 million investment, it broke ground in May of 2025 and opens in spring of 2027.
That idea feels unusual beside the traditional European model. Across England, Germany, Belgium, and the Netherlands, smaller clubs often develop inside grounds that have been expanded gradually over decades. One stand receives a new roof, another gets additional seats, and the rest waits until the budget stops looking frightened. That slow growth creates wonderful character, although it can also leave clubs operating in facilities built for another era. Grand Rapids is making the opposite choice by treating a developmental league team as something worth planning around before it becomes famous. AC Grand Rapids is expected to compete in MLS Next Pro, yet the club will receive a purpose-built home scheduled to open in spring 2027. Construction began on May 28, 2025, which means the city is placing real money behind a team whose biggest chapters have not even been written. There's something deeply American in that confidence. It resembles buying a teenager professional recording equipment before the first garage concert, except this particular garage costs $175 million and comes with thousands of seats. The addictive part is not luxury for its own sake. It is the sense that everyone inside the stadium will matter. In a venue of 8,500, supporters are close enough for their chance to reach the field without crossing several postal codes. A full crowd can create pressure, warmth, and identity without requiring the population of a small European town to pass through the turnstiles. The scale feels personal, yet the investment tells visitors that the experience is being taken seriously. That matters because many European fans still associate American sports with giant arenas, endless parking lots, and crowds large enough to need their own weather system. Amway Stadium offers a different kind of ambition. Instead of chasing the biggest possible capacity, the project is building the right size home for a growing community. In European football, intimacy often survives because old stadiums happen to be small. In Grand Rapids, intimacy is being designed deliberately. This may explain why the project can become more memorable than a larger venue. Big stadiums create spectacle, but compact grounds create belonging. Supporters begin to recognize the same faces. Local rituals develop faster, and one loud section can influence the entire atmosphere. The experience feels less like attending a national production and more like being admitted into a neighborhood secret that everyone hopes will become famous later. The comparison with Europe becomes clearest in regional cities. Places such as Breda in the Netherlands, Paderborn in Germany, or Luton in England have built powerful football identities without needing the population or global status of London, Paris, or Madrid. Grand Rapids is following a similar emotional path while using a very American financial approach. It is investing early, building cleanly, and presenting the club as part of the city's future rather than a hobby waiting for permission. For visitors who spent the World Cup hearing that American soccer lacks roots, Amway Stadium offers a quiet correction. Roots do not always begin in old brick walls. Sometimes they begin with fresh concrete, a new badge, and a city willing to believe before the rest of the country notices. Grand Rapids may be the smallest stop on this list, but its message is enormous. America is no longer building soccer only for major markets. It is building loyalty one regional city at a time. Weather never wins. Nashville's new stadium project takes one of America's favorite ideas and applies it with almost comic confidence. If the weather can ruin the event, simply build a venue that refuses to acknowledge the weather. The planned new nascent stadium is designed as an enclosed, climate-controlled arena with roughly 60,000 seats and an estimated cost of about $2.1 billion. Its most compelling feature is not the scoreboard, the luxury suites, or even the price tag. The real attraction is certainty, because inside this building, summer heat, heavy rain, and an inconvenient cold front are expected to become somebody else's problem. That promise feels especially powerful after an international tournament, when supporters may cross an ocean, reserve hotels months ahead, and spend hundreds of dollars before reaching the gate. European football culture has traditionally accepted weather as part of the bargain. Supporters in Manchester can watch rain arrive sideways, while winter matches in Germany may require enough clothing to resemble a carefully organized laundry basket. Even Wembley's famous roof covers the seats without fully enclosing the field, and Tottenham Hotspur Stadium remains an open-air venue despite its advanced, retractable pitch. Nashville is pursuing a different type of spectacle, where atmosphere remains welcome, but atmospheric conditions are politely shown the door. This matters because American stadium culture treats comfort as part of the event, rather than a reward for enduring it. A supporter should be able to focus on the match without calculating whether the person selling ponchos has just become the wealthiest entrepreneur in the county. Climate control makes kickoff times more predictable, protects broadcast schedules, and allows the venue to host major events throughout the year. Football, concerts, conventions, and international soccer can share the same calendar without everyone staring nervously at a weather app that has changed its mind 4 times since breakfast. For European visitors, that reliability can become surprisingly addictive. There's a certain romance in standing beneath gray skies at an old ground, although romance becomes less charming when shoes are soaked and the return train is delayed. Nashville offers another kind of pleasure, walking into a huge indoor arena and knowing the temperature will behave itself. The experience feels less like gambling with the forecast and more like entering a giant living room where 60,000 people have somehow agreed to watch the same television. The cultural contrast runs deeper than convenience. European stadiums often preserve the relationship between sport and the natural conditions surrounding it, while modern American venues increasingly try to control every part of the audience experience. Lighting, sound, temperature, food service, digital screens, entrances, and entertainment are coordinated with the precision of a Broadway production wearing shoulder pads. Some purists may prefer a rawer setting, but international visitors quickly understand why the polished version is so appealing. America does not merely host the game. It builds a protective bubble around the memory of attending it. A fully enclosed stadium also strengthens Nashville's ability to compete for events that might otherwise favor warmer or more predictable destinations. A World Cup match, championship game, or major concert carries enormous financial value, and organizers prefer fewer variables. Weather delays are not quaint when broadcasters, sponsors, security teams, and tens of thousands of travelers are working from an exact timetable. By removing one of the largest uncertainties, the stadium becomes more than a home field. It becomes dependable national infrastructure disguised as an entertainment palace. That may be the most American part of the entire project. Rather than asking supporters to adapt to the building, Nashville is designing the building to adapt to almost everything. The result promises the energy of a massive crowd without the usual outdoor bargaining session between humans and clouds. For Europeans accustomed to checking the forecast before choosing between a scarf and waterproof trousers, this kind of certainty can feel wonderfully indulgent. America has looked at matchday weather, handed it a visitor badge, and quietly denied it access to the field. Buffalo turns up. Volume. Imagine spending more than $2 billion on a stadium and deciding that the most valuable feature should not be silence, softness, or polite comfort. Buffalo is doing something far more entertaining. It is designing the new Highmark Stadium so the crowd itself becomes part of the machinery. The planned venue is expected to hold roughly 62,000 spectators and cost about $2.1 billion. Those figures are impressive, although the real fascination lies in how the seating bowl, partial roof, and compact arrangement are intended to keep supporters close to the action. Around 65% of the seats are expected to receive roof coverage, but the stadium will remain open to the sky. Buffalo is not hiding from its weather completely. That would feel almost suspicious in Western New York. Instead, the design aims to protect much of the audience while preserving the raw outdoor atmosphere that has always made Bills games feel like a family reunion organized by people who own snow shovels. This is not merely an architectural choice. It reveals how Americans understand crowd energy. A modern stadium is not supposed to hold noise like a warehouse holds boxes. It should collect that noise, push it toward the field, and make every cheer feel larger than the number of people producing it. The audience is no longer treated as decoration surrounding the event. They become another system inside the building alongside lighting, security, drainage, and sound. European football already understands the power of compact stands. Borussia Dortmund's Signal Iduna Park can hold more than 81,000 people, while its famous South Stand creates one of the continent's most intense walls of sound. Liverpool's Anfield uses closeness and steep seating to make roughly 60,000 supporters feel even more imposing. Yet many older European grounds gained these qualities through decades of additions, renovations, and happy accidents. Buffalo is trying to engineer that emotional pressure from the first blueprint. That is the new American twist. The country has spent decades mastering stadium scale, but newer projects increasingly focus on emotional precision. Bigger is no longer enough because a crowd spread too widely can sound like applause escaping through an open window. Buffalo's answer is to bring people inward, cover much of the seating, and let the architecture return their own voices to them. The building effectively tells every supporter, "Go ahead, yell again, that sounded excellent." This is why the experience can become addictive. When people hear thousands of strangers responding at exactly the same moment, they temporarily stop feeling like separate ticket holders. The stadium turns them into one living crowd with a shared pulse. Television can show the score and replay every angle, but it cannot fully reproduce the physical sensation of noise moving through concrete, steel, and human bodies. Once visitors experience that collective force, watching from a quiet living room can feel like attending a barbecue through a security camera. The contrast with some European venues is especially revealing. The Olympic Stadium in Rome holds more than 70,000 spectators, but its running track creates noticeable distance between the stands and the field. Berlin's Olympiastadion also carries extraordinary history and scale, yet the oval layout naturally spreads the atmosphere across a wider space. Buffalo is pursuing intimacy instead, even with tens of thousands of people present. The project understands that emotional distance is often more important than physical capacity. That may be the most memorable lesson for European visitors after the World Cup. America is not simply building expensive structures because it can. It is learning how to make enormous places feel personal, loud, and strangely welcoming at the same time. The new Highmark Stadium will not ask supporters to sit quietly and admire the architecture. It will invite them to complete it. In Buffalo, the final construction material is the crowd. The World Cup may be over, but America's stadium revolution is only beginning. From Queens to Chicago, Grand Rapids, Nashville, and Buffalo, these projects reveal a country that does not merely host sport, it turns ambition into places people can feel. Europe owns football history, yet America is building tomorrow with confidence, comfort, and imagination. Which stadium would you visit first? Share your choice below and subscribe to the channel for more stories about the America the world rarely sees.